All right, big news over on Dog Post. Todd Monken hired by the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think this is really a shock to some of y'all. This is Todd Monken had been uh, interviewing in the NFL, and now we know for sure that the Ravens have hired him. And that's where he got his two different interviews for Todd Monken. So, congratulations to Todd. He leaves as one of the best coordinators ever to have done it at Georgia. And we're going to look forward a little bit. I will be very surprised if Mike Bobo is not the offensive coordinator at Georgia. I don't know when that will be announced. That's what everybody thinks behind the scenes at Georgia. That was somewhat of the suspicion for a long time. And we'll see, and I'll talk more about that if and when that happens. But Todd Monken, I write about this quite a bit actually in Double Dogs. Todd Monken is a big part of what is written in Double Dogs. He's an outstanding interview. If you've not seen this before, because I know there's a lot of new people that watch, make sure you're getting a link down below. And in my time covering Todd Monken, which has been the last 3 years, um, he is an outstanding interview. You can see why people like him so much. Very frank, very honest about everything. I think that this is not a surprise. Obviously, with all of the interviews that he took, and I don't know what the Ravens are going to be paying him, but the Tampa thing was to me not a fit. I can go into that some other time, but I was skeptical of Tampa. Baltimore was a slightly different situation, a more stable coaching situation there, a very good franchise. Quarterback, a little bit maybe in flux, but my guess is that the Ravens will franchise Lamar Jackson and they'll just move on from there. But again, one thing we talked about in Double Dogs was Todd Monken, and it's at the end of the book. Um, well, he's the lead to the Ohio State story because he was just pacing around in the photographer's pen. Well, it's hard to describe. Describe it better in the book. But there's a stage and there's a pen, and that's where the players were. And then there's a photographer's pen, kind of, and the players were flowing out. And I just remember after that Ohio State game, my role as a reporter is completely different than everybody else's, and I'm the only guy that's actually on the field taking photos. I've done it for 20 plus years, and most people that cover teams, they're in the box, they're in the press box, they're not on the field. And when Georgia beat Ohio State, I'd run to go get my other cameras. Yeah, there's a dance you have to do at the end of these games. You can't go to the field with every single lens or camera that you've got. And when I'd come back onto the field and was in the tunnel, and the reason I say all that was because I had gone to go get the cameras and so forth. And I was in the tunnel, and here come the assistant coaches flying down the corridor and through the tunnel and onto the field. And Todd Monken was the last. I mean, Todd Hartley was pumped up. Mishad was just pumped up. The whole crew of them that had run onto the field from the upper area, we were just so excited. And Todd was the last person to come on because he was kind of like, I don't know if this is maybe the right way to put it, but it was almost like he was collecting himself. And he had come back to the locker room, and by the time he got back onto the field, and I saw him the second time, he looked like he had seen a ghost that night. I mean, that win for Georgia over Ohio State was a big deal, and I mean it essentially won them the national championship. I think people like me, you, everybody on the field, they knew that. They couldn't say that, and it was hard to say that at the time. But with what Todd Monken was experiencing was he was pacing back and forth behind the photographers, and as the players were trickling away from the celebration that was happening to our left towards the away from the redcoats. Um, he was hugging Kenny McIntosh. They were hugging each other back and forth, and Kenny was so excited. He had that giant hat on, And Todd's media credential was just like flying back and forth, um, because they were hugging and were so in tune with the moment. Um, yeah, now here's the news that Bobo is officially the I'm gonna have to punch a few buttons while I talk to y'all, but Mike is officially the offensive coordinator. I'll do a little bit more about Mike in a second here, but Todd was so excited about that moment and about that time. And what he said to Jalen that I got on video, Jalen Carter, was that you know, that you'll never forget this moment. It doesn't matter what you do, you will never forget this moment. And I think he's right. I don't see how um, you can live through that moment in time and not remember it forever. And I think that either Todd Monken knew that that was his last or one of his final games at Georgia, or he was just sort of overcome with emotion. I'm not sure. That was a very emotional moment in time for Georgia, uh, and Kirby and all of them. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. It was a lot to watch. And as an observer, um, you know, Todd Monken was taking in every moment that he could as he could, because that was really he must have known that that was his last time being the coordinator at Georgia, or had a pretty good idea that that was the case. But he's gone now, and I think he leaves a legacy, a not insignificant one. I mean, it is significant what he has done at Georgia. Um, and now he will be replaced by Mike Bobo. I don't think that that's a shocking thing at all, that Mike would take over. But with Todd, you're talking about a man that was responsible for Georgia going 30. What was he? They were 15, 14. I can't remember. So 42. Uh, 37, excuse me. Not, yeah, 37-3 over a period of time that was a very short period of time, 3 years. I mean, when you go back and think about what what he did, uh, that's not nothing. I mean, that's not nothing at all. I mean, to win back-to-back national championships, um, that's significant, and it was because of heavily because of what Todd Monken did and said. The move to Stetson Bennett was brave, but it was because of Todd Monken for sure. It was not just um, that was a huge thing, and that was a big moment um in the 3 years that Todd Monken was there. I mean, Todd was fully behind Stetson Bennett. As soon as it was evident that he should be the guy. I think so. In talking with people behind the scenes, some coaches, sometimes not coaches, in this case, coaches, um, I'm starting to remember a conversation. I can't. It was someone on the offensive side of the ball. I can't remember exactly who it was, but their point, and maybe I think it was actually this was not behind the scenes. This was Kirby saying it was not a slam dunk that JT Daniels was supposed to be the guy. And it was Kirby that was talking about. Okay, so I feel a lot more comfortable saying this because he said it publicly. Kirby was talking about how it wasn't just a certainty that Georgia would go with JT Daniels as their starting quarterback. That there was discussion um, going into 21, if I'm not mistaken, about Stetson being the guy. Todd Monken, I think, realized before other folks just what he had in Stetson Bennett with the ability to move. And as you move forward here, now you've got three quarterbacks, and I'll talk more about this later today when the Mike Bobo video comes out. But now you've got three quarterbacks who are more gifted running the ball than any of the guys that Mike had, maybe with the exception of Matthew Stafford. Aaron was really good running the ball, and they shut it down. Mike and Coach Rick, they just weren't going to let it happen, I don't think. And Aaron wasn't as well. Aaron was a really, really good runner. Aaron was ready to get his head knocked off at any moment. That was the problem with Aaron Murray running the football. Aaron, truth, right? I mean, I've got photos of Aaron Murray about getting killed running the ball. So it really, when you think about this time at Georgia and everything that Todd Monken had, a lot of the stuff that he said about going and being able to take risks because you had a defense. Mike Bobo's never had a defense. It didn't happen. I mean, I thought Todd Grantham was a perfectly adequate defensive coordinator. I do not think he was elite coordinator. I think sometimes people overdid the Todd, oh my God, I'm forgetting everybody's name. The Todd Grantham. There's a lot of Todds involved here. The Todd Grantham stuff was kind of overkill, but this is what we do, you know. But Todd Monken never was a coordinator at Georgia when he had a bad defense. That just didn't exist. It wasn't there. And I mean, I don't know as much about the Ravens as I do about Georgia, but probably at the Ravens, they're going to have a really good defense there because they've been really good on defense for a long time. They've got Roquan Smith as their middle linebacker of the future and present and future. So they've got guys on the defensive side of the ball. This will probably work out for the Ravens. I mean, that's my take at least. I think Todd Monken is a really good offensive coordinator, period. And now he's with the Ravens.